Hey, what's up, my friend? Keala Kanae here, and in this video, I'm going to answer a question that I get fairly often, which is, how do I know when it's time to quit my job and go full-time with my online business? I actually break that all down in a very simple grade school mathematical formula here for you, and we'll go ahead and get into that in just a moment. So stick with me, and let's get started. One of the best ways to explain what we're going to be talking about here is to kind of take a couple of steps back and talk about kind of the two prices that we pay for everything, right? So everything has both a fixed price, the price that we pay to have it, which may be the monetary price, and then there's also what's called an opportunity cost that goes along with that. So in other words, if I decide to go to the beach today, it may be free for me to go to the beach. But if I have to take off work to go to the beach, then, and at my job I make, let's say, $20 an hour, well, if I'm going to take off an 8-hour day, then the opportunity cost of going to the beach was $160, because otherwise I could have gone to work and made $160, right? $20 an hour for an 8-hour day. So the opportunity cost of going to the beach was $160, even though it physically cost me nothing to go to the beach, let's say. Right? So that's basically a form of opportunity cost. And so when we're trying to figure out when is it the right time to quit your job and go full-time online, I'm going to share with you something that I started thinking through this process back when I was still working in a coffee shop, and I'm going to break down for you exactly what my thinking was the same month that I finally quit my job and left. Okay? Now, I have talked about something similar to this in another video. One of the things I've talked about on a more general basis is that, generally speaking, we tell our clients and customers and people in our community, hey, quit your job when your online business is generating 3 times as much revenue for you, right, as your full-time job is. As just a general rule of thumb, just to keep it simple, okay? And I can link to that video somewhere around here. We will link to that other video in case you want to watch it. Now, here, though, is just a more drawn-out breakdown of how to know that it's time to quit your job. So at my last month on the job working in a coffee shop, I had done $8,000 that month, just the month prior, in commissions in my online business. So as an affiliate marketer, I had earned $8,000 just the month prior. So I come into work one day, and my manager, who was very supportive of me, she was very supportive throughout the entire process, really cheered me on. She says to me one day, Keala, so how did you end up doing last month? And I was like, dang, Misty, I think I made like $8,000 almost. And she's like, what? What are you still doing here? Like, why are you still here? And see, the truth was, at that time, I was afraid to quit my job because as an aspiring entrepreneur for 12 years leading up to that, so many times before I had made the mistake of quitting my job too soon, running out of money, and then having to go back and get another job in order to support my business. So I was so afraid that I was going to make that mistake again that I was still holding on, right, to the job, even though my online business was paying considerably more. So here's basically the math that I used to figure this out. So on average, I was working 2 to 3 hours a night after I got home from work at that coffee shop. So, and I didn't work every single day. My girlfriend and I, we took Sundays off to go enjoy ourselves, go down to the beach, go out to the movies, whatever. So if you average that out, 2 to 3 hours a night after work, let's say 3 hours a night, 6 nights a week, that equals 18 hours, right? So 18 hours a week that I was putting in. So I'm going to just pull out my handy dandy calculator here in the form of a cell phone, and I'm just going to run some calculations for you. So 18 hours, we'll take 18 times 4.3 because there's about 4.3 weeks in a month. 52 divided by 12, and you'll get about 4.3. So 18 hours times 4.3, which equals 77.4, right? Then I looked at, okay, $8,000 a month. So it's $8,000 divided by $8,000 divided by 77.4. So I could figure out what was I earning per hour that I was putting into my online business. Equals $103. Okay, so let's put 8K divided by 77.4 equals $103.35 per hour on average is what I was earning in my online business at this time. Now, here's how much I was earning at my job. Okay, at my job, I was making about 10 bucks an hour. So here I was at a job that's taking up about 35 to 40 hours a week of my time. And at that job, I'm making $10 an hour. But in my side hustle, in my online business, I was making $103 an hour, right? So in other words, my job it was paying me $10 an hour, but it was costing me $93 an hour, really, to be there versus to be at home working on my online business, if that makes sense, right? Assuming that the rate of return on my hourly input was the same for every hour that I put into my online business, assuming that the rate of return would remain the same, then every time I was at work making $10 an hour, I was actually losing $93 an hour worth of value had I just stayed home and worked on my online business. And basically, once I sat down and calculated this all out, there on the job actually, I realized like, oh my God, I have got to quit my job because every hour that I'm here at this job, I'm actually stealing opportunity from myself, because all other things being equal, if I were just putting in the same 30 to 40 hours a week into my online business, I would be making, about 10 times return versus what I'm making per hour here. And so that was basically the point at which I decided to put in my 2 weeks and leave. And so my suggestion to you would be to take a very objective view at this, not be overly emotional about it, not be overly excited about it, not race to quit the job too soon, but to step back and say, first, are you generating any revenue with your digital business or your online business? If so, what? And what revenue what rate of return are you getting on your hourly input, right? So if you're getting, if you're making $20 an hour at your job, but you're hustling in the evenings on your digital business and you're making $25 an hour there, then it may or may not be worth the risk to step away from the job and put more hours into your online business. Being real with you, when I first quit the job, I didn't even know what to spend that extra 30 to 40 hours a week on. A lot of what I did by accident, not knowing, is that I ended up spending a bunch of time doing stuff that didn't give me that same rate of return. When I only had 2 to 3 hours a night, it turns out that what happened was I just naturally focused on the things that were going to give me, that had the most leverage, and I actually got the most return versus my input because I only had 2 to 3 hours to put in. Turns out that when all of a sudden I had 40 hours a week available, at first I struggled to get that same rate of return because a lot of my time was spent doing things that kept me busy but didn't actually create an ROI, right? And so sometimes we might make the mistake of thinking that busy work is the same thing, being busy is the same thing as being productive, which are actually two very, very different things. So when I first quit my job, I think the very next month after I quit my job, I did about 13 or 14,000 in commissions that next month. And then I kind of stagnated there for a while. But if you looked at the amount of time that I was putting in versus the amount of money that I was pulling out, my hourly rate of return had dropped dramatically. It was no longer the $103 an hour or whatever. But over time, as I start to figure it out and get refined and start to focus on more of the income producing activities, and then for 40 hours a week, or really at times it was 15 and 20 hours a week, I was still pulling in $20, $30, $40,000 in a month, $50,000 in a month. Eventually got to the point where I had 6-figure months working pretty part-time, but it took a little while to get there. Okay, so this gives you something objective to look at. Pull back the view a bit, get rid of all the emotions, and just say objectively, what am I getting as a rate of return on my hourly input in my side hustle versus the rate of return on my hourly input into my career? And if the hourly return on the side hustle is significantly more, then it may be time to consider leaving the job. Just know though, that at first, when you leave that job and you have all this extra time to put into your business, your rate of return, like I talked about, is likely going to go down at first before it comes back up. So don't be prepared for that. Don't be too startled by it. Don't let it shake you. Don't get fearful. And in the long run, you'll probably come out ahead. So hopefully this helps you understand the difference between cost and opportunity cost, and when's the time to go full hustle on the side hustle and ditch the day job. Hopefully you get some value out of that. Go ahead and subscribe, click like, drop a comment, ask questions. Let me know, did I go too fast? Did I go too slow in this video? What else would you like to learn? What else would you like me to talk about to help you get better results in your business? Click subscribe, make sure that you turn on the notifications, and I look forward to sharing more content with you in the future. Sayonara, my friend.